Do you want to know how to stop being a passive parent? Well, you're not alone. Passiveness in parenting is actually an increasing problem in our culture. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about parenting, family communication, and relationships through the lens of self-government. And in this video, we are going to be talking about how to overcome those passive tendencies. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a mom who has overcome some of her own passive tendencies. Her name's Candace, and we're happy to have her here today. And I'm also going to share with you 5 tips that you can use to overcome passive parenting. Well, Candace, thank you for being here with me and talking about passiveness and parenting. I know you've worked really hard at making sure that you are an intentional parent. And that you're doing things on purpose. But surely you've had some struggles with passiveness in the past.
Absolutely. So I was actually raised by a mom who I say is a perfect mix between Mother Teresa and Mary Poppins. She's like the best. And I think when I first became a mom, I really struggled with what my parenting style was going to be. Based on my upbringing, I wasn't quite sure how she had gotten there. She just seemed to kind of know all the ways.
It was like magic.
It
like
was
Mary
magical.
Poppins.
It really was magical. And so when all those gifts didn't descend on me like I had thought, like I had to work at it, it was just very interesting because I know I didn't want contention in my home. And sometimes I thought that that meant being passive about things that really needed some work. And so to avoid the contention, it was easier to just go to that space of comfort or to that space of let's like just divert attention and not address it. And you realize over time, because I think there's 2 sides of the pendulum. There's passive, and then there's people that are very over disciplinarian. And I knew I didn't want to. Yes, and I knew I didn't want to be either of those, but I didn't really know what was the assertive answer to get the best results in the middle until I obviously learned a lot of these great tools. So for me, I erred probably more on the side of passive because I felt like that was less contentious than overly aggressive parenting. And so what you realize though is it creates habits that are not great for your kids and not great for your home, not great for your culture. Kids want boundaries. Yeah. They want structure, and they want to know that they want consequences of things as well. And that's life. That's how life works. And so I think that when you realize, I remember hearing a talk that said, which way do you want to go? And it says, well, it matters where you want to end up. Right? And
it's like Alice in Wonderland.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Cheshire Cat.
Yes, and remember they said, well, I don't really care where I end up. Well, then it doesn't matter what way you go. Or it's like, no, with parenting, you do care where you end up. You want to be as intentional as possible. So I knew I couldn't leave these things to chance, and I knew that I needed to get really assertive about the way that I wanted people to feel and how we wanted our family to interact with one another. So we needed some structure, and a lot of these things were just the structure that we needed for that. So
wonderful. I love that you're using the word assertive. That's one of my favorite words because it really does suggest that a person is actually deliberate, intentional. They're going to lead. They're going to lead out. They're going to lead themselves. They're not just going to follow whatever happens. And that is the type of communication that you want to have, where you feel like you're truly leading yourself through an interaction instead of just seeing what occurs, which could be terrible for the family bonds and the family relationship.
Well, you had us do an exercise years ago at one of the first retreats we did, and you said, what do you want your family to look like in 10 years, and what do you want your family to look like in 20 years? What are the things you're going to be doing? What are their feelings that you're going to have towards one another? What are they going to be your traditions that you come back and celebrate? How do you want those relationships to look? None of those things happen by accident. No. So I think you have to look at how you want those things to be going and be very intentional about how you're setting up those structures and how you want that to look. Me and my siblings are all very close. My parents and I, our family's very close. And when I look at that though, the structure that my mom created was always encouraging those relationships. She was a very peaceful and calm woman. And a lot of the things that you teach and explain of why those things work really made a lot of sense to me when I looked at my own upbringing.
Yeah, so it just intuitively was able to do so many of the things that many people nowadays are struggling with, especially because there's so many messages about parenting, right? It's like, oh, well, you deserve this in your parenting, or well, that would take too much of the parent's time, or whatever. And so there's a lot of these selfish messages that then lead a person to either just snap and be aggressive at their children, or to just go, oh, I don't have time for that. I got to do me, right? And what's for me. And so I think even though in their heart, they want a certain type of family for the future. They want to prepare for that 20-year, what we call it a vision, right? The 20-year vision for that family. Even though they want to get there at the end result, in the minute they get caught up in all of the dialogue that's happening around them every day. And in the end, they end up usually trending toward passive. That is the most common form of parenting right now, is the passive parent. And it is creating identity problems for the parent as well as for the children. If the parent doesn't know who they are, then the children end up not knowing who they are either. And if the parent gets caught up in what their wish list is, or how they want to spend their day, and don't factor in all the people that are with them as part of this family unit, everybody ends up losing, and they don't recognize that that's actually what's happening. So let's share some tips, okay? Yes. I've got 5 tips, and one of them I know you've put a lot of effort into, and that is a big one for your family, and that is open communication. I've got 5 tips to share with you for how you can overcome those passive tendencies, or some of those ideas that might be coming towards you that you think might be passive. But before we do that, click on that subscribe button, and don't forget to click the notification bell too. That notification bell is going to make sure that you don't miss other powerful videos like this that could literally transform your home. The first tip is open dialogue. And I know this is something your family has spent a lot of time trying to make sure that the communication is good. What do you think about open communication with your family?
I think open communication is everything. I mean, if you've ever dealt with people, which all of us have, you realize everyone has different perspectives, different thoughts, feelings about almost everything in life. So I think when you can seek to understand and you can keep that open dialogue, you can make sure that you're, one of those safe people that your children love to speak to, and that you're having open communication with your spouse about your goals and your family. These are all things that just need to be happening daily and weekly.
They do, because you have to keep the family going in the direction that you planned, right? So if you're going to be deliberate about creating a family vision, which we already talked about, then you've got to make sure that you're following up. And so I call this having a report culture. So part of our home culture is that we have times where we report. So in the teaching self-government system, we talk about different ways to do reporting, and what have this reporting culture, what has it brought into your family?
Well, I think reporting culture is huge because it can help you avoid pitfalls. Like it's kind of, we talk a lot about pre-teaching, but there's also pre-planning. Hey, we have these things coming up, or this week's going to be really full, or dad's going to be out of town, or these are some things that we want to work on. It can really help problems not become bigger than they need to be. And the other thing is that I think it's a good place for praise. It's a good place to openly acknowledge all of the work that's going into our family running smoothly. My oldest daughter is extremely helpful. She was born kind of like a 20-year-old, and then we have Avonlea, who's a peacemaker, in Berlin, who's so sweet and keeps us laughing. So I think it's really good to have these reports so that you can kind of highlight their strengths in front of everyone as well. That's been huge for our girls.
Yeah, when you have a report culture, the focus ends up going on honesty. And so you can learn self-government, which is the lens we're looking at all of this through, is that lens of self-government, because that's who I am, that's what we teach. If you're honest, you don't achieve self-government if you're trying to hide things and sweep them under a rug. So one of the big things that we do for report culture is family meetings. So in our teaching self-government culture, where we are constantly being honest and reporting, we have 3 different meetings. So we have the couples meeting, the family meeting, and the individual mentor meetings that happen every single week. Tip number 2 is to stop focusing on emotions. And we're talking about your emotions and their emotions. If we focus too much on emotions, then sometimes this makes parents afraid to actually take action, which can lead to being more passive in our parenting. So Candace, let's talk about emotions. And so your journey towards self-government and learning skills of self-government and stuff really had its emotional ahas for you, right? Yeah, so tell us about that a little bit.
So, I mean, we have all girls here living because we have a son that passed away, but like being in a home of all girls, like emotions can run high. I came from a family that was dominantly girl as well. We had 5 sisters, 2 brothers. I'm an artist, so I'm definitely more emotional than logical in my own brain. So I think too, one of the things that's been great is just talking to my own kids about the way that I'm growing as well. And they find a lot of comfort in that. My girls often ask me, what are you working on? Like, are you still working on stuff? Because if you're still working on stuff, it gives us hope in working on our stuff. And so for me, I realized when you can take the emotion out of it and again, go back to your goal as a family. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What's the culture that we're trying to embrace here? What's our end goal? And is this going to really serve our family?
Yeah.
This decision, being passive on this, would that really serve our family, or would it be, more of a detriment? And I think a lot of times, if we're being honest with ourselves, that when we get emotional, we get really tired really quick. And when we take the logic out of things, it's very easy to be making emotional decisions that aren't usually for our best interest or the best interest of our family.
Yeah.
And because I'm a working mom, I have a full-time job too. Like there's just like a lot of plate spinning, which I know is the case for a lot of moms. It's very easy to get to that space and, to get to a space where you're like more survival than you are assertive.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why people go the passive direction because they end up feeling like I'm in survival mode. I can't handle everything. It's just too much. And it starts to feel like it's piling in. But what you're saying though, is that if you recognize, wait a minute, we can't let the emotions dominate, that actually frees up a whole bunch of space for you, doesn't it? To be able to handle what's going on. And then if you know skills to boot, right? You've learned some skills. Well, how do I do an effective correction that's non-emotional, right? And then taking it even to the next level, I love how you're so transparent and open with your children and how you're telling them, hey, mom's working on stuff, right? Because you're self-governing.
Yes.
And are we ever done self-governing?
Never.
No, we are never done. So the children need to see this is part of life. It's okay to notice something wrong with ourselves and to fix it. We don't have to take it personally. And that's the thing I always say. Let's don't take it personally.
Right.
When your child does something, don't take it personally. But I think we also need to say, when we mess up, don't take it personally. Just decide what needs to adjust and then move on.
And I really realized that passive parenting doesn't work for healing either. When our son passed away, we couldn't take a passive approach. We had to be very intentional about that. And that is emotional and appropriately so.
Yeah.
But there were still things that we had to be assertive and not passive about. We had to talk about hard things. We had to talk about how we were all feeling very openly and very often, especially when it first happened. And just seeing the beauty of how this even works in the hardest of circumstances. You know the end goal, you know the peace that you want your family to feel, you know the joy that you want to have in your family. And so being intentional even about those things, it works. I mean, absolutely. And of course, especially when things get hard, it's very easy to say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, or I don't want to go there, which is the same thing.
It's passive.
It's the same thing that you fall into even for things that are less, big life events like that. But I did realize that even through that, these skills worked. These same steps, those family meetings were like gold.
That's huge.
Right? Talking about these deep things. How are you doing? How are you doing? How are you feeling about all these things? There was just a lot to process. And so like you said, we're not sweeping it under the rug. This happens, this works for the little things, but it also works for the really big things too.
Wow. Thank you. That is really good advice. Tip number 4 is point the ship toward learning, not comfort or pleasure. I think comfort and pleasure can trap us all, especially on hard days. Don't you think? Don't you think, Candace?
Yes.
Yeah. What can happen to parents if they get a little focused on comfort and pleasure?
Well, it's easier. It's easier to say, oh, please just take the iPad and everybody just zen for just a minute.
Yeah.
Like, please, And of course, that's the easier route sometimes in our
Yeah.
brain. Long term, it's obviously not easier because you're going to have to correct some of
Because
those
what
things
did you learn?
later.
Yeah, what did you learn? So see, that's the problem, is that when the child's having a meltdown moment, they learn, oh, I need a distraction if I'm having a meltdown. Instead of I need to learn how to address it,
Yes.
how to be calm in the minute. It takes more work, doesn't
And
it?
it's more work for the kid, it's more work for the parent.
Yeah, so you have to keep this learning mindset,
Yes.
which means you have to always say, I'm ready. The next thing I'm ready. Doesn't matter how busy the day is, I'm ready. We will teach, we will talk about it, we will get to the skill development that's required. So that brings us to tip number 4, which is the skills.
Yes.
So we absolutely have to have the skills for success. Without the right tools, we're floundering, right? So a learning mindset, this is a principle. We need skills that are also going to be principle based, that are going to keep us not reacting, but instead motivating ourselves forward. So we learn a lot of skills in the Teaching Self-Government program. Are there key skills maybe in the program that have been vital to you?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like if kids are going to have a framework and parents are going to have a framework that works, you can't just say, don't do this. You have to absolutely replace it with, what are we going to do then? And that's where the skill set comes in. That's where pre-teaching comes in. That's where all of these things come in. And so for us, I think the power of calm is huge. That's what I keep at the front of my mind all the time, because I feel like I'm steering this ship half the time, right? Like my husband's obviously a huge contributor to our family culture too, but if he's not home and all of those things, I always have to remember, if I'm the power of calm and if I'm modeling what I hope one day they can enjoy, which is to be calm no matter what. Because this, let's face it, this is a life skill. I'm like I said, I'm a working mom, so I use these same things in professional settings as well, right? You don't want to be roller coastering with the ebbs and flows of what everyone's doing or saying or feeling. You want to be able to have that stalwart power of calm as your base.
It's huge, because that's such a personal skill that is for everything. And that calmness skill, it's a 6-step process that we share. In fact, if people stay with us until the end, I'm going to give them a special surprise that will help them learn that power of calm, those skill steps.
That alone will be life-changing.
Yeah, that will be life-changing.
Yes.
So stick with us till the end. Okay, so that one's huge. The skills for the children are pretty big though too, right?
1,000%.
Yeah.
You can't even implement the skills for the children until you understand how the power of calm works.
Right. You got to get
Right?
yourself
You have
going.
to get yourself in that space where you're always ready, like you said. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to take the time to calmly explain why this is a better route, and long term why this is going to work. So, I mean, even just an hour ago, right? My youngest daughter, she thought I wasn't understanding what she was saying, and was able to say, "Oh wait, let's look at each other with a calm face, voice, and body. Let's talk about it. I understand how you're feeling," and immediately she was fine. She's like, "Oh well, my mom's fine. I'm fine. Oh, she does hear me, right?" Like just little things. It kind of just goes.
It pulls the people back together and makes the other stuff that's happening things you can deal with, because it's not the people, right? Because when we don't have calmness, the problem becomes the person. We've got to have the people go together and be united so that they can then solve the problems that just happen to be there.
Yes.
It's huge, and that's what skills do. So we teach 4 basic skills for children and for adults. We all need them to govern ourselves. We also teach 5 parenting styles, 3 meetings, many principles, and then that big tone element, the power of calm skill, as well as some other tone elements and things that we teach, and problem-solving exercises to help the children. There's just so much there, skill development-wise, in the Teaching Self-Government program that just, it's life-changing. It absolutely is.
And being able to know, I can ask my children anything, and they know that there is a number of ways that they can help, answer, talk to me. I mean, really, anytime you ask your child a question or they ask you a question, it becomes a check-in point.
Yes,
Right?
it does. It's that
So-
culture, that report culture. All the conversations lead to it because there's just honesty throughout. And that's because it's skill-based and not manipulation-based. Well, I should say it's principle-based, really, because the skills are all principles. So I've got one more tip for you. This is tip number 5, and it is redos. But stick with us to the end, because I have that free gift for you, too, for more calmness at your house. So, Candace, let's talk about redos, because we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. We've been at this for a long time now, teaching our families self-government and trying to control ourselves and keep that calmness within ourselves. But there's going to be moments where we make a mistake. And how powerful is it that we can say, wait a minute, stop here. The way I just did that just now is actually not the right way. I do not want to do it that way. I want to redo it. So we're going to do a redo. This is an amazing lesson to our children.
Yes, my kids love it when I ask for a redo.
Yeah, well, because it shows, number one, you're not perfect either, but it also shows, wait, we can always just redo stuff. Mm-hmm. We don't have to ever feel like one action is it forever and defines us. It gives us hope. Mm-hmm. It gives them hope. Yes. It's huge. And then they get to use a little bit of mercy with you, and sometimes everybody has a chuckle.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. My kids love to know what I'm working on, and if I need a redo, it's like the most refreshing thing. It's like their favorite things ever.
Well, because they see, they
Yes.
see mom is doing her self-government too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what's an example maybe of a redo situation? Just so that people have an idea what that might look like.
So my 3 girls are very close, and to the point where we had to knock down the wall in between their rooms and just make them one big room.
Like a bunkhouse.
Like a bunkhouse, right? And so this room is great, but it has a tendency to like get piles of things on the open floor, right?
Yeah.
Just the busyness of the day. And so the other day I walk in and I'm like, seriously, what is happening in here?
It just got you. You all of a sudden took it personally.
Because it was probably the 3rd time I had walked in there, and I'm like, I don't understand the amount of clothing that is flying out of this bedroom today. Like, we're talking 7 loads worth of laundry, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is sometimes when you say, can you guys pick that up quickly, they think that means scoop it up and put it in the laundry basket, clean and dirty.
you're like, wait.
I'm like, that was a gallon worth of Tide. I don't even know what just happened in here. Yeah. And so I just said, I need a redo. That wasn't my best work. Let's try that again.
So you kind of went in and went, hello.
I was like, hello, girls.
And then kind of got a little emotional.
This room doesn't clean itself. What is happening? We have 72 piles of clothes on the floor.
So you started saying really kind of clever statements,
but
they...
I was so clever. I was like, I swear I just folded that an hour ago. What happened? What happened?
Yeah.
Do we need extra things to do around here? So yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. I could think of a lot of things that they could be doing with their time and that I could be doing with my time.
Yes.
Besides picking up these clothes for the 184th moment, it felt like that day. And then I just was like, okay, time out. And I realized it wasn't just the clothes, obviously, which it usually never is, right?
Yeah.
I had work deadlines, I had things going on, I had,
The stress was mounting.
Oh yeah, I had friends that were going through hard things. And so I just had to say, you know what, I'm sorry.
But you caught yourself.
Yeah. And I'm like, let's do it together. My kids are always team players, especially if I use it as a moment to connect. If I say, you know what, let's go clean your room. They're like, oh, mom's coming, let's go do it. Versus girls go clean your room. It's like you would think they had, sometimes like a 40-pound rock on their shoe. Right? Like, man.
Especially when it gets to that point. Yes. You're like, where do I begin?
Yes.
Because it can feel overwhelming.
Yes, it can feel very overwhelming.
So it overwhelmed you.
It overwhelmed me.
Yeah. And
so
so you know that you can overwhelm them
So
too.
I'm a grown woman and I'm like, this is overwhelming. So you little people fix it, which I realize isn't going to work, right?
No,
so, yes.
Yeah.
So redo for mom. And they loved it.
And so then you said, okay, we're going to give you instructions bit by bit.
Yes.
And we're going to go through
this. Do this little section. Let's just do the beds. Mom's going to be here.
Yes.
We turned on the Enchanted soundtrack and the cleaning song. All was well.
I love it. You have your motivation tunes.
At the morning, I came in as Cruella DeVille and left as Enchanted. So we fixed it.
So
we fixed it.
It was good. That's a great example of a redo. And I think there's a lot of people going, okay, I need to just redo. Yeah, but even if I just decided it was okay for me to redo something, I would change everything at my house, right?
Yeah.
Oh, super good. Super good. So if a person can do all 5 of these things, that is going to take them on a new path. No more passive parenting anymore. So I would like to give everybody who stayed here with us all the way to the end a free gift, as I promised. And that free gift is my Calm Parenting Toolkit. So I've created a toolkit that has 10 lessons in it. It's a mini course to get people started on their journey towards self-government, and I would like to give it to you for free. In the description below this video, there is a link that says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. Click that link and it will take you to a free version of the Calm Parenting Toolkit that you can access right now. Click the link and we'll see you there.